Okay, so this is going to be history and astronomy. So we'll start with astronomy. I got a few books, kind of random books on astronomy. Been looking for this for a long time, or not, well, I don't know about a long time, but I'm really glad to have this for really, really cheap instead of having to order it. The History of Astronomy from Thales to Kepler by Dreyer, D-R-E-Y-E-R. I had this on my Amazon wish list, but I found it in a used bookstore. This is 1953. This is actually a Dover printing. I thought Dover printings were only like under 150 pages. But anyways, this is great. From Thales to Kepler. So Thales was father of philosophy, he's called actually, ancient Greek. And up to Kepler. So that's wonderful. I'm really glad to have this. And it's got in here stuff on the early Greek philosophers and what they thought about the sky. And then getting into Aristarchus, who I believe he's called Aristarchus of Samos, who was the first, well, I don't know if he's been credited to it, but he discovered that the sun was at the center of the solar system. But I don't think people credit that to him. But he did, I guess he did know that, and maybe he didn't articulate it correctly or not, but that's what I've heard. So it wasn't, Copernicus? I was going to say Galileo, but I think Copernicus knew about it. The heliocentric versus the model of the universe. So anyways, that's great. I'm really glad to have that. So on that topic, here is another one of those Britannia great books. So this has in it Ptolemy, Copernicus, and Kepler. I was going to not get this because it looks very technical. It's got all kinds of mathematics in here. Although I shouldn't, mathematics was easy to me in high school, and I took calculus in university. But anyways, I guess I'll flip through it, and I don't know. It's like some of this kind of stuff is not exactly what I'm interested in terms of reading today about the astronomy, but I suppose I should. It's the basis of how they're calculating where things are in space. So, all right, here's another Carl Sagan book, Billions and Billions, Thoughts on Life and Death in the Book of At the Brink of the Millennium. I have yet to read Cosmos, and I need to, and perhaps after the Heinlein book I will. But it's supposed to be a fantastic read. If you're going to read anything by Carl Sagan, you should read his Cosmos book first. But there's another one. I guess it's just essays, just his thoughts on his random comments on space. I was recently, I don't know where I got this from, but recently I was looking at someone who was talking about why do we always think that aliens are evil, malicious, and out to kill the human race and all that. And someone was talking, I think maybe it was Bill Whittle again. He was talking about E.T., like consider Alien versus Predator kind of stuff. Aliens are considered like nasty looking, and they're out to kill and eat human beings or something. They're not intelligent, really. They're evil. It's like a Christian alien, right? Like a Christian good and evil kind of thing. But when the movie E.T. came out, that was one of the first benevolent looks at portrayals of aliens. Like even Captain Kirk and the early Star Trek series, someone who looked different than you, like Klingons, they had the American attitude of, we'll just kill them. Like, we're Americans. We'll just, pwn everybody, right? Beat up everybody. And then you get the Captain Picard, The Next Generation, where it's more diplomatic, and there's all kinds of races, and we're not just going to go and blow them up. We're going to create the Federation, and we're going to ally with these other races. We're going to ally with the Klingons. We're going to try to get the Romulans to be peaceful, and the Ferengi, we're going to trade with them and be nice to them, and all this kind of stuff. All kinds of peacekeeping activities. A very fundamental different way of life than what's portrayed in Picard. Or, I mean, portrayed in Kirk. The American, like, we'll just kick their asses kind of thing. Okay, and one more. This is kind of random, but this is basically astronomy, but it's not science. It's more just like fiction, I guess. Isaac Asimov's Solar System. This is not written by Isaac Asimov. I believe this is an anthology of writers on Isaac Asimov's writings in history, or writings in astronomy, and his like, he's got the Foundation series and he's got Robot series. And I was actually listening to on YouTube all kinds of interviews by Asimov, and he's an interesting person. There was one interview where he was talking about environmentalism, and this was in probably the 60s or 70s, and he was basically talking like the modern environmentalists do today, that we're pumping all kinds of carbon in the atmosphere, and we're going to crank up the temperature of the earth, and it's not going to be sustainable to life, and it's going to turn rainforests into deserts and all this stuff. He was railing against that in the 60s. But I'm trying to remember if Asimov portrayed a political position, but I don't really recall. But he was very futuristic, obviously, forward-thinking. And I know there was one interview we talked about the space elevator, although that might have been Arthur C. Clarke, and they were talking about how that would be possible. One thing I remember that just reminds me, though, in the Heinlein book, is they're talking about the cost to ship goods from the Earth to the moon is very expensive because the Earth's gravity is so strong. But the cost to ship goods from the moon to the Earth is very cheap, because all you have to do is just get past the moon's very little gravity, and then you can fall into the Earth. So it's very cheap to send stuff back to Earth. So that's interesting, because that might suggest that the moon is a mineable resource. Once you're there, once you get all the mining equipment there, which will be expensive, you can easily ship ore back to the Earth just by making it fall back down to Earth. Hopefully, though, you can kind of you can have a safe fall. You don't want to be lobbing giant storage containers over into the Earth and having them drop down in, anywhere, right? Although the Earth is 2/3 water, so you'll likely hit the water, but obviously you'll want some kind of you'll want to try to be accurate in where it lands, but that's going to be pretty hard to be accurate, I think. But anyways, I just thought that was interesting. Okay, more history. So I'll do these in order, chronological order. So here's the daily life of the Aztecs. I don't think I have one of these yet, so that's nice to have a pelican. These nice little pelican ones, and they've got what are these things called? I can't remember. Plate. I think they're called plates, but they're like they're pictures. They're like photo paper, right? And they've got pictures on them. All kinds of stuff about the Aztecs, and you probably know of the Montezuma sacrifice stuff where they cut the guy's heart out and all that. That's certainly part of that. Okay, here's medieval cities. I really like the cover, but this is a nice little pocket paperback on different medieval cities. I'm just going to see what they've got in here. Mediterranean, the 9th century. Revival of commerce, the merchant class, the middle class. So, yeah, that's interesting. So here's another book on medieval history, a big hardcover. Medieval History by Carl Stephenson, 3rd edition. I don't have a lot of medieval stuff, so that's why I got those two things. So now I've got some stuff on the medieval, and there's some plates in here too. Some nice photographs. Here's a nice castle. It's a nice castle at the bottom there. So I think that's pretty neat. Okay. Now I think this one comes next. So here's So here's a history of modern France. I've got all 3 volumes. I actually used to only have volume 3, but then I found the other 2. So here's volume 1. This is all of them by Alfred Cobban. History of Modern France, 1715 to 1799. There's volume 1. Volume 2 is 1799 to 1871. And then here's volume 3, 71 to 1962. So that's wonderful. That's probably all I need on France. And of course, I think France is important because they have some ties in with the American Revolution. And of course, they had a conception of liberty, but not the American conception. Okay, here is, well, I guess I'll do this one. So this is on Canadian history, Company of Adventurers. This is volume 1 by Peter C. Newman. So I have volume 2, but I just found volume 1. So this is on the fur trade and things like that in Upper Canada, or Northern Ontario and near the Hudson Bay. So I think that'd be interesting to have a look at what that's like. Here's one by Stuart Age Holbrook. He's certainly a writer in history. The American Lumberjack. So I think that'd be interesting to have a look at that. Actually used to put on boots that had claws, well, studs on them, and ride the logs down the river to the sawmill. That's how they used to transport the wood. So, okay, here's A.G.P. Taylor, the warlords. So we got Hitler, Stalin, Churchill, Roosevelt, and I don't know who that is, but I don't know who this guy is. Doesn't look like Mussolini. So there's Japan's flag. So I got there's lots of pictures in here. A.G.P. Taylor, I've got the Second World War. He's certainly a military historian. So that'll be nice. It's got lots of pictures. So it's on each of the warlords. So there's a part on Stalin, there's a part on Roosevelt, Churchill. I guess I can find out who the other guy is. There's Hitler. So who's the other guy? Oh, it is Mussolini. Okay, it is Mussolini. It didn't look like Mussolini. And the last one, Historical Atlas of Texas. I believe for some reason that was up here in Canada. William C. Poole. The reason why I got this is because I know that Texas joined the Union on a different contract. Apparently, constitutionally speaking, Texas can secede from the Union if it wants to at any time. It has a different agreement. It was one of the later states that were incorporated. I believe it was about around the time when there was a war with Mexico. So I'm very curious about that history. So there's all kinds of maps in here about early Texas and early San Antonio and all that. So it's got there's colored maps here. I'll show you one of them. So that looks pretty neat. Some kind of early, I guess not really early, not modern history, but kind of early history of the States. So yeah, I'm interested about that contract. So all right, so that's it for books for 2013.